Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, meathead. This is the quality of tax advice, legal advice, and general business advice that nobody's normal that comes here, and nobody's average that comes here, but the guy or gal that comes here, this is the kind of advice you get. Your brother-in-law, some fucking moron. This happens to be nude psychic readings and tax advice. And this is why you are where you are. Amongst all the other things I've said. Now, you are not getting I'm taking things out of sequence based on your inadequacies. So I wasn't going to show you Josh Kim's 3 closes, but I'm going to show you because the more I'm with you, the more I realize, even though you get them on the fucking thing, you're going to be fucked. And I'm not just saying this to hear myself talk. I'm not just saying this to make you feel bad. I'm not just saying this to make you feel better. I'm just telling you the truth. So we're going to go through them quickly. Because when you do them at home or wherever you did them, I just know as straightforward and fucking simple as they are, you will panic. 2 or 3 of you will. If you've never had an anxiety attack, you'll have one. I had hoped, prayed that the 6 months rest with no seminars, coming back fresh, I need 5 minutes to refresh myself. If you need, I tell our own kids, if you need a vacation to recharge, then you're not my kid. I mean, your mama must have fucked somebody else. You hear that all the time, right? Got to recharge, you need a holiday. Don't you? Yourself included. You said it yourself. Elon Musk, there's a famous story about, 10, 15 years ago. He went on allegedly a vacation in South America and he almost died. He got some fucking leper, some shit, and he almost died. He almost died. That was the first, last, and only vacation he ever took. These guys that we're going to talk about Andrew a little later, don't take vacations. They don't take holidays. And they certainly don't get advice from somebody like this. Josh will show you how you recruit a chairman, a banker, and I believe a motivated seller. He has reduced the templates because he thought the templates had superfluous words. But he was bright and you're not, but a lot of the kids use his own template, which you're going to get. What Mr. Carnegie, remember, for all the good he's done, has never been awarded anything. Nobody seems to think that that's strange but me. I'm the only one that brings it up. Now, there's something on my website and there's something on social media that alludes to the fact that Napoleon Hill was a fraud. For those of you that read it. No place in the Andrew Carnegie archives, and he's got, historians and shit like that, do they have him ever meeting Napoleon Hill, let alone for a 3-day weekend in San Francisco. You need to ask yourself, why would a 60-some-year-old man spend a weekend with a 19-year-old kid? Unless why would the Napoleon Hill Foundation deny him ever meeting him? Having said that, Think and Grow Rich is a great book. It's iconic. But most of the guys out there build their stories on bullshit. And I've already said plenty of times that W. Clement Stone invented personal development in the 50s when he was trying to figure out a new sales platform for a new form of insurance, and he called Napoleon Hill to come. He was, by that time, I think, bankrupt at least twice, Napoleon Hill. And he came to Chicago, where W. Clement Stone, who was the founder of a company called Combined Insurance, which I actually talked to W. Clement Stone personally in 2000-ish, and was planning to go take him to dinner. Then his house burned down, unfortunately, and he died shortly thereafter at about the age of 100. But as he told me on the phone, I believe it was this year, that he needed a new gimmick. He didn't say scam, he said gimmick. And they came up with it, and he said, Mr. Peña, I can't really tell you which one of us came up with the idea. Personal development. You can't measure personal development. And the industry was born. And look at how many have come after him. And look at how much time you've spent on. Remember I said yesterday and or the day before, when I hear somebody saying, I'm working on that, the big fucking hitters that I've had the privilege of being around and working with and some working for, I've never heard those words come out of their lips. I'm working on it. Yet it is one of the most common phrases when you get around also-rans, wannabes, in addition to but. And W. Clement Stone, goddamn, anyway, I should have got off my fucking ass and gone to see him. So that's a regret that I would have liked to have met one of the, and he came up with positive mental attitude and a bunch of other things that have been iconic since the early 50s. But getting back to Andrew, Guthrie Castle is a nice place. Not as nice as this. You really haven't seen the inside, and the estate's not as well manicured as ours, but it's a lovely place. It's a lovely place. I spent my 75th birthday there as a gift from Sally. Comments, questions about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, ma'am.
He was a tough man, and he didn't.
He was what?
A tough man, and he didn't mind hurting other people's feelings.
He was also a dwarf. Some of the doors in Guthrie Castle are made. You'd be a tall man in the castle. The door handles, not the rim, or the door frame are regular size, but the handle for the door, instead of like here, it's here, like for kids. He was a hard ass, threw people under the bus, threw his at least one of his mentors under the bus. What else? Yes, sir.
He was working 12 hours when he was 13.
Was he part of the potato famine? No?
Fuck off.
Now, depending on which story you want to hear, he either left Scotland when he was 7 or 12. Most people settle on the 12. I like the 7 better. And he went with his father, one story is, because his father was going out of business because they came up with new innovation for what his dad did. But I like the story. He ran away from home when he was 7. And he stowed away and had to fight the rats off in the belly of the ship. He was a tough little fuck. What else about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir, in the back.
When he was going around union busting and stuff, he knew exactly what he was doing to his workers, exactly what situation he was putting them into, because that's how he grew up, and he still did it.
And when they were busting the unions and killing people, he ran off to Europe to hide like a cunt. But he knew what was going on. But then, like all the guys, myself included, trying to buy our way to heaven if there is one. He tried to clean up his legacy, just as, the guys do. Just in case there is really somebody up there. A lot of the rich guys don't believe they're either agnostic or atheist. But it's not popular to be an agnostic or an atheist today. It's even less popular with the cancel culture. And so now just about everybody. I think Donald Trump was the only president in recent history that didn't go to church, some format or some form on Sundays. And nobody mentioned it in the news. They mentioned it once, and then they never mentioned it again. Because it's not polite to say you don't go to church, synagogue, or whatever, mosque. What else about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir.
His motivation for becoming rich stemmed from his experience of being poor.
And he wanted to prove to his mama, just like I want to prove to my dad. A lot of similarities. And when she came back to Dunfermline and riding in the coach, I don't give a fuck what motivates you. Most of the guys in this room have mommy issues. And the ones that don't have mommy issues have daddy issues. And some of you have both. And if you're not bright enough to understand that, and that's why I'm going to show you the 3 Josh Kim deals, because you're not bright enough. Or you're extraordinarily, you're showing an extraordinary amount of doofusness, because this is easy fucking peasy. It's like, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. What else about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir.
He was relentless about keeping his costs down and destroying his competition.
Well, it's easier to destroy competition than keeping your costs down. So I'm in favor of that myself. But part of the keeping the cost down is not unionizing and not paying a fair wage. I forget what they used to call it, but a fair wage. And that's what differentiated, allegedly, ostensibly, supposedly, the first Henry Ford. He was the first industrialist on the planet that paid a daily living wage. But, I'm going to do the but now, that he had an ulterior motive. He couldn't sell his fucking cars. So he wanted his 60,000 employees to buy a fucking car. But the kids now, they just focus in on the fact what a philanthropist he was. But there was a reason why he paid a daily living wage. I think it was $7 a day, which is hard to believe that that's a daily living wage, so they could buy a car, because he invented the first car payment plan. So he was moving units. God love him. What else about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir.
Whenever workers have a new record, they made a new record. It was never impressive.
Correct. That's exactly how I do. I won't be happy when my daughter's prime minister. What are you going to do next, Sweet Pea? High performance people continue to raise the bar. There's no such a thing as a stretch fucking goal. I think that that's the biggest detriment that's ever been foisted. That's the right word you have. Foisted on humanity. Stretch goals. As fast and as much as humanly possible. What else about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir.
He used his surroundings to improve himself. When he was a telegraph officer,
Correct.
everybody he delivered to, he researched who they were, what they were worth, and what they could do for him.
And he was taking the information, which isn't part of that movie, selling it to others and or implementing it himself. What else? Yes, sir, in the back.
I think he was so used to struggling and suffering growing up. It's part of the reason why he didn't give a fuck about anybody else struggling.
And I told you, his wife's bedroom is about 80, 90 yards away from his. He's got one corner that overlooks the kind of the valley of the estate. His daughter's bedroom was right next to, which I could talk an hour about that. But anyway, his daughter's bedroom, and then Mama's bedroom was way the fuck. You had to like a maze to get there, and we stayed in the daughter's bedroom on the estate. But we got to go in the old man's bedroom, and it was big, but I mean it's not as big as you would think for a house that's big. What else about Mr. Carnegie? Yes, sir, in the back.
He constantly used lies and deception in order to get one over on other people, like talking about homogeneity.
Yeah. You know, a lie's a lie only, really, only when you get caught, really. A lie's a lie. But, and he's not the only one. In recent years, I won't say all the iconic guys and gals, but a lot of the iconic guys and gals step on their dick because they say something and they don't really mean that, and then a statement. They call it walking it back now, and like in politics. I said A, and they walk it back to C, D, E. But they've been doing that a long, long time. And most of the issues for the first industrialists had to do with employees or the lack thereof, and payment to the employees or the lack thereof, or benefits, which were really non-existent. And because the easiest thing to change in a business model is the personnel, whereas you think it's the hardest thing to change because you've been taught that the current currency is people, and people are the most important thing in business. I tend to agree with that, but it's not. In QLA's currency is sacrifice. And if you don't have people that are willing to sacrifice, this model doesn't work. You cannot be the only person sacrificing, and then you will never fulfill those high and lofty goals that we're going to talk about later in the day. You have to get everybody on board. And Thomas, the current poster child, he does that very well because he's in that age group, and he looks even younger. And, he says, it's rah-rah. He's like a cheerleader. And he is. He's a great salesman. And I was more decades before. I didn't consider myself a cheerleader. You either did it my way or the highway. And I used to, as I told you, with not the joke, but when I got that icon on my board, and then he realized that we were in the liquor business because I sold a lot of people because I was always enthusiastic. It was always going to be, 1,000%. It always could be done, no matter what. I only had 3 or 4 sayings, and I used them over and over and over again, just like a fucking crooked politician. But Mr. Carnegie there's no doubt he developed the steel industry. He was great. He had a Napoleon complex because he was small in stature, but he was big in balls. And that's all it really takes is big in balls. And he pulled the trigger. And everything he tried didn't work out, but he'd try something else. And before you could even start moaning about it not working, he was trying something else, and something else, and something else. And from about 20 miles south of here, all the way to the borders, I mean, he's a legend. He's a legend. He did a lot of good. He did a lot of good, and maybe he'll get a knighthood posthumously, but so far. And he's been gone about 100 years. He died. And it's interesting that Think and Grow Rich was published days after he died. Stories, some people say hours, minutes, but it's really actually a few weeks. Now, there's no history that he fought it from being published. But I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. And the story, which apparently sounds like Carnegie, I don't know if it's true, when the kid's leaving, Napoleon Hill's leaving after 3 days of God knows what, and he's at the door, and he said that he's going to give him a proposal that'll change his life, and to meet all the rich people, and then put a book together about the habits of the rich people. And he allegedly pulled out his watch, and he gave the kid 60 seconds. The kid didn't know it was 60 seconds. And depending on what version of the story you want to believe, the kid answered back in 26 seconds or 36 seconds. Yes, I'll do it. Then he dropped the other salami, the three-legged person. He dropped the second part of it, and you're not going to get paid. And then he dropped the third leg, and it'll take you all your life. Because in those days, supposedly, I don't think Carnegie knew 500 people, but to get around to see people in Europe and people in the continent, you got to get on a fucking boat, and it'd take you forever. It took him forever. And then, lo and behold, the book was not an instant success. He wrote a couple other books that didn't sell too well. And that's how they qualify whether they're a success or not, is by the sales. Anything else about Josh? Oh, excuse me. Josh is not like Andrew Carnegie, believe me. Yeah. Are you scratching your head or raising your hand? Okay, yes. Okay. Correct. Now, if you get a migraine, you don't come to work. I remember reading an HR report, and a company we took over years ago, and the diarrhea and migraine days off just jumped out at me. Like, a commercial where they'll just jump out at you. And I go, what in the fuck? Is this a joke? Is this a fucking joke? Days missed. I said, well, we're just going to fire all those people. And you can just imagine what the HR heads thought. She went fucking ballistic. I said, will you come up with a reason, Sweet Pea, or you're fired? Yeah. Now, guess what? She was very innovative, and she came up with a reason. It took her a couple weeks longer than I gave her, but okay, YouTube, goodbye.